good to be here, more so at an event that this institution, that for decades some of us have observed and even done some work in. Great to hear the testimony from our Egyptian sister. It just reminds me of the many times this institution, particularly the students and some teachers and workers, have raised immense hopes only for them to be dashed to the ground and trampled upon. And of course in 2017, when out of the resistance that students of many generations and staff and workers had put up against the coloniality that this institution represented, it adopted a decolonization vision statement that you can find on the web, which made all kinds of promises. But then, in the very same breath that this was adopted, the institution went to great extent to effect counter-insurgency measures to ensure that these words never meant anything to our people. And so, it is very clear that this is an institution that has no will or intention to depart from the genocide and ecocide that it institutionalizes in itself.
Shame! Shame!
Shame! And we cannot, as those who come from African and other colonized communities of resistance, we cannot leave it to the empty promises of those who run this institution to effect seriously any measures of decolonization. And this is why the challenge comes to our communities, from which students are extracted with all kinds of promises and taken through the mental destructive processes of imprinting on their minds the genocide and ecocide that they go out from this institution. Most of them go out from this institution to become death killers who may not necessarily gun people down with machine guns and bombs, but sit at desks and take decisions that result in the loss of millions of lives across the world, the destruction of the planet, from which, by investment, this institution and those who run it benefit. Profiteering from the blood of many generations of our people for hundreds of years now. And that is why we feel bound as communities of resistance of colonized peoples to utilize this opportunity in this liberated zone for Gaza to launch our work towards a decolonial open communiversity. That will be something that all our communities of resistance across the world see as their foot through the door of institutions like this, where we challenge everybody to learn the accumulated knowledges and wisdoms of our communities, upon which this institution has spilled lots of rivers of blood, trying to denigrate, destroy, and obliterate. We shall bring alive, as some institutions are doing across the world, and there are best practices that this institution can learn from but refuses to do so. The University of Waikato, for example, in Aotearoa or New Zealand, the University of Victoria in Canada, but also the University of Edinburgh, with which we are engaging through the International Network of Activists and Scholars for African Reparations. There are universities making real effort that if the will were there, this institution could learn from. But our DECOLONIAL Open Communiversity will teach those who are interested the how. And this comes from the movements of resistance of our communities across the world, from which we will draw people of wisdom, of knowledges, that including those who come and work in all kinds of capacities, in these institutions, but bring along with them as migrants the best of knowledge of resistance that our communities have fought with against coloniality. So we invite you to work with us from this liberated zone for Gaza to develop an alternative that will teach what true education for humanity ought to be to those desk killers in SOAS who can make all kinds of promises about decolonization only to act against those who want to realize this vision.
Yes.
Let me make one thing very clear. Through this DECOLONIAL Open Communiversity, where not those who build their careers on misappropriating our knowledges and cultures to pretend they are teaching decolonization, but real freedom-fighting scholar activists from the grassroots of activists of resistance across the world will be working with all those who are interested to develop true knowledge, true education. And we want to show that together in freedom fighting, we can create an alternative that will not only emancipate all of humanity, but will also ensure that the most precious thing to all of us, our Mother Earth, will no longer continue to be raped by the products of genocidal institutions like SOAS and the University of London. We, in this breath, I'll now invite the reading of the verdict of this tribunal, so that we can see where our testimonies have led us to and what are the commitments that arise from not just the launch, not just the holding of this historic tribunal that will ensure that our communities deserve what is better for them from what SOAS have continued together with all the other schools of the University of London to loot from us, that we deserve better, but also we are going to make that better ourselves.